In the heart of Milan, under the soft glow of the setting sun that painted the ancient city in hues of gold and amber, the future was about to unfold. The auditorium, a modern oasis amidst the city's historical grandeur, buzzed with anticipation. Scholars, journalists, and the intellectually curious had gathered, drawn by the promise of witnessing a revelation that could redefine humanity's grasp on the existential. Dr. Luca Ferrara, a figure both celebrated and controversial in scientific circles, stood confidently at the podium. His presence commanded attention, his eyes alight with the fervour of a man on the brink of altering the course of human understanding. The screen behind him flickered to life, displaying the bold title, "Beyond the Mind, the Final Frontier of Human Consciousness." He stood icon and with radiating confidence before the assembled crowd, the Nexus interface beside him gleaming under the auditorium lights. He began, his voice a mixture of excitement and solemnity, knowing he was about to introduce a concept as wondrous as it was terrifying.
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment, if you will, a world where the boundaries of human consciousness are not limited by our physical form, a realm where thought, imagination, and the essence of our being can traverse beyond the confines of our neural pathways. This,
he gestured towards the sleek device,
is the first step towards that world, the Nexus interface.
The Nexus interface, resting on the pedestal beside Dr. Ferrara, appeared less like a machine and more like an artifact from a future age. Its surface was a seamless, polished black, absorbing light and reflecting a depth that seemed almost infinite. Thin, luminescent lines traced across its form, pulsating gently, mimicking the rhythm of a living, breathing entity. Its core visible through a transparent crystalline dome housed an ever-shifting kaleidoscope of colours, a visual representation of the interface's ability to tap into the myriad pathways of the human mind. This device, with its elegant curves and understated complexity, stood as a testament to human ingenuity, a bridge to realms untold, waiting to unlock the boundless potential of consciousness itself. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in, then continued in a more conversational tone.
Think of the brain as a computer, an incredibly complex organ that processes information, stores memories, and generates every thought, every feeling we experience. Now, imagine if we could connect this computer to an external network, one not made of cables and servers, but of the very fabric of consciousness itself.
The audience was captivated, hanging on his every word. Ferrara smiled, acknowledging their intrigue, and delved deeper into the mechanics of the interface.
The Nexus interface,
he explained,
utilizes a combination of quantum computing and advanced neuroscience to create a bridge. This isn't science fiction. It's the culmination of decades of research into quantum mechanics and brain function. At its core, the interface interprets the quantum signals of our brain, a language of unimaginable complexity, and translates them into something more.
He moved closer to the device, running his hand along its smooth surface.
Early tests have been nothing short of miraculous. Subjects connected to the interface have reported experiences that defy conventional understanding. They've seen landscapes that cannot exist in our physical world, spoken to manifestations of their subconscious, and even glimpsed into realms that we, until now, could only dream of.
Ferrara's tone shifted, becoming more somber.
But with great discovery comes great responsibility. As we push the boundaries of what is known, we must also brace for the unknown. The realms we are beginning to explore are uncharted territories, filled with wonders, but potentially also with horrors.
He looked around the room, making eye contact with several audience members.
Consider the explorers of old setting sail into the vast, unknown oceans. They discovered new worlds, yes, but they also encountered storms, monsters of the deep, and challenges that tested the very limits of their resolve. The Nexus interface is our ship, and the ocean of consciousness is vast and deep.
Ferrara's voice was earnest, passionate.
we stand at the threshold of a new era of exploration. An era where the final frontier is not the depths of the ocean or the far reaches of space, but the inner universe of the human mind. The Nexus interface is our guide into this frontier, offering a glimpse into the essence of thought and consciousness.
He paused, letting his words resonate.
But we must proceed with caution. The realms of consciousness we seek to explore are not empty. They are the home of our deepest fears, our greatest hopes, and the raw essence of what makes us human. As we venture forth, we must be prepared for what we might find, for the journey into the mind is perhaps the most perilous of all.
The auditorium was silent, the audience hanging on every word. Ferrara concluded, his voice a blend of caution and optimism.
The Nexus interface represents the first step on a journey of discovery that will challenge our understanding of reality, of consciousness, and of ourselves. It is a journey we must undertake with open minds and brave hearts, for the mysteries of the mind are the last true frontier and they await us.
With that, Dr. Ferrara stepped back, the Nexus interface beside him no longer just a piece of technology, but a beacon into the unknown, a challenge to the very nature of human understanding. The audience erupted into applause, not just for the promise of discovery, but for the reminder that the greatest adventures lie not in the stars, but within ourselves. The demonstration that followed was nothing short of spectacular. Alessia Conti, Ferrara's closest collaborator, volunteered for the demonstration. The audience watched, breathless, as she was connected to the interface. The monitors displayed live feeds of her brain activity, vibrant with color and movement, a visual symphony of thought and emotion. The beauty of this other reality was undeniable. Through the interface, the crowd witnessed landscapes that defied logic, where the physics of their world no longer applied. Colors unseen by the human eye, structures that floated in non-Euclidean space, and a sense of profound connection to something greater than oneself. It was a discovery of monumental significance, the implications of which they had only begun to grasp. Then, the unexpected. As Alessia's consciousness ventured beyond, the monitors flickered erratically, images blurring into a chaotic cascade of shapes and shadows. A collective gasp filled the room as the impossible manifested on the screens, a vista of a realm beyond comprehension, ethereal and grotesque in equal measure. The demonstration ended abruptly, the images vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Alessia was disconnected, appearing unharmed but visibly shaken, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fear. The audience erupted into applause, but the sound was tinged with unease. Whispers spread like wildfire, speculation mingling with disbelief. Ferrara, maintaining his composure, assured the crowd of the interface's safety and the controlled nature of their experiments. But as the auditorium emptied, the weight of what had been witnessed hung heavy in the air. Ferrara and Conti retreated to the solitude of their lab, nestled in the shadow of the Dolomites, a place where ambition knew no bounds and the veil between worlds was thin. That night, as Ferrara reviewed the day's footage alone, the interface inactive and silent beside him, he was haunted by the images that had briefly flickered into existence. He replayed the video, frame by frame, seeking answers in the chaos. And then he saw it, a figure, obscured and twisted but unmistakably sentient, staring back at him from the other side. Ferrara froze, his mind racing to rationalize what his eyes had seen. The figure seemed to beckon, its presence an omen of the unknown depths they had dared to explore. As Ferrara sat, transfixed, the air in the lab grew cold, the silence oppressive. A sense of dread crept over him, the realization that they had opened a door that was never meant to be unlocked. The interface, inert and unassuming in the dim light, now seemed a harbinger of nightmares yet to unfold. In that moment, Ferrara understood the magnitude of their discovery and the potential peril they had invited. The boundaries between realms, once secure, now trembled at the brink of collapse. What had they unleashed? What horrors had they glimpsed lurking in the shadows of human consciousness? The question hung unanswered, a chilling prelude to the nightmare that awaited. Ferrara, alone with his thoughts and fears, faced the dawning realization that their journey into the unknown had only just begun. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity in the secluded Dolomites lab. Dr. Luca Ferrara and Alessia Conti, fueled by the tantalizing glimpse into another realm, pushed their experiments with the Nexus interface further. Each test was meticulously planned, every variable accounted for, yet the realm beyond seemed to defy the confines of scientific understanding. Alessia, ever the cautious counterpart to Ferrara's boundless enthusiasm, documented each experiment with a growing sense of unease. The beauty of the alternate reality was not without its horrors. Shadows that moved with malevolent intent, whispers that seemed to echo from the darkness. But the pursuit of knowledge pressed them onward, deeper into the unknown. In the dim light of the lab, surrounded by monitors flickering with data from their latest foray into the unknown, Alessia turned to Ferrara, her expression a mix of awe and apprehension.
Alessia, did you see it? The possibilities are endless.
Ferrara's voice was alive with excitement, his eyes sparkling with visions of uncharted realms.
Yes, Luca, I saw.
Alessia replied, her voice steady but tinged with caution.
But did you not also see the shadows? The way they moved? It wasn't just the absence of light. There was something sentient about them.
Ferrara waved her concerns away with a dismissive hand.
Shadows, Alessia? We're on the brink of rewriting what it means to be human, of unlocking the mysteries of consciousness itself, and you're worried about shadows?
Not just shadows.
Alessia countered, her frustration rising.
You heard the whispers, didn't you? They weren't just figments of our imagination. There's something there, Luca. Something not just unknown, but unsettling.
Ferrara leaned in, his enthusiasm undimmed.
Unsettling, perhaps, but think of the science, Alessia. Think of what this means for our understanding of the mind, of reality itself. We knew this journey wouldn't be without its risks.
Alessia met his gaze, her resolve hardening.
I'm not blind to the allure, Luca. But our responsibility as scientists isn't just to pursue knowledge. It's to understand the consequences of that pursuit. What if those shadows, those whispers, are a warning?
Ferrara scoffed, his patience thinning.
Warnings? We are pioneers, Alessia. Every great discovery has its naysayers, its dangers. But should we cower in fear, or should we press on, armed with curiosity and courage?
Curiosity and courage are not shields against the consequences of our actions.
Alessia shot back, her voice rising in intensity.
What we've seen, it's more than just unexplored territory. There's a malevolence, Luca. Ignoring it won't make it less real.
Ferrara paused, his fervor cooling in the face of Alessia's earnest concern.
And what would you have us do then? Turn back on the cusp of discovery because of some unease?
Not turn back.
Alessia said, her voice softening but her stance unwavering.
But proceed with caution, with respect for the unknown. We're not just dealing with data and theories here. We're dealing with something alive, something beyond our current understanding.
The room fell silent, the only sound the quiet hum of equipment. Ferrara looked away, the weight of Alessia's words settling over him. The thrill of discovery had blinded him to the potential dangers, to the responsibility they bore as gatekeepers of this new frontier.
You're right, Alessia,
he finally said, his voice low.
We've been so caught up in the potential that we've ignored the warnings. But how do we proceed? How do we balance our pursuit with the caution you speak of?
Alessia stepped closer, her demeanor softening.
Together, Luca. We do it together. By not letting our ambition cloud our judgment. By listening, not just to the allure of the unknown, but to its dangers as well.
Ferrara nodded, a newfound resolve in his gaze.
Together then, into the unknown with eyes wide open.
Their agreement marked a pivotal moment, a commitment to forge ahead with a measured balance of wonder and wariness. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with potential marvels and dangers, but they would face it as a united front, ready for whatever mysteries lay beyond the veil of human understanding. As the boundary between worlds thinned, the repercussions began to manifest in their own reality. The first sign was subtle, a flicker in the lab's lights, a static hum that seemed to come from nowhere. Then more tangible phenomena, electronic devices turning on and off without explanation, data files corrupting with patterns that suggested deliberate sabotage. The lab, once a sanctuary of scientific pursuit, took on a foreboding atmosphere. Shadows seemed to linger a moment too long. The silence was filled with the weight of unseen watchers. Ferrara, obsessed with the potential of their discovery, dismissed these occurrences as mere side effects of their groundbreaking work. Alessia, however, couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone, that something had noticed their intrusions and was now making its presence known. Their next experiment was to be the boldest yet. Ferrara intended to fully project his consciousness into the alternate reality, to explore further than they had dared before. Alessia voiced her concerns, but Ferrara's conviction that they were on the cusp of a breakthrough overrode her hesitation. The experiment began as planned. Ferrara, connected to the Nexus interface, closed his eyes and stepped into the unknown. Alessia monitored his vital signs, the data streams painting a picture of a mind extending beyond the physical confines of the lab. At first, Ferrara's reports were filled with wonder. He described a world alive with impossible beauty, a symphony of sights and sounds that transcended earthly limitations. But his voice, transmitted through the interface, began to falter. His descriptions grew disjointed, tinged with fear. Alessia's attempts to communicate became strained, the connection unstable. Then, without warning, Ferrara's voice cut off. The monitors flashed with static, the data streams collapsing into chaos. Alessia called out, her voice echoing in the now silent lab. No response came, only the crackle of static that seemed to mock her efforts. Panic set in as she attempted to re-establish the connection, to bring Ferrara back as she saw his body appearing to be in a comatose state. But the interface remained silent, a void where Ferrara's consciousness should have been. The lab around her began to change, walls warping, shadows stretching into grotesque shapes, the air thick with a sense of malevolent glee. Alessia, working frantically amidst the lab's growing disarray, halted as a chilling whisper sliced through the pandemonium. It was Ferrara, his voice a haunting echo of fear and desperation that seemed to permeate the very air around her.
Alessia!
The voice trembled, a shadow of the confident man who had stood beside her in pursuit of the unknown.
I'm trapped, lost in this endless nightmare. It's unraveling me, tearing at the edges of my mind. I can't find my way back.
The desperation in Ferrara's voice was palpable, a stark contrast to the man who had always faced the unknown with unwavering resolve.
The Nexus, it's not just a gateway. It's alive, Alessia. It's consuming me, trying to replace me. I need your help. Please, you have to pull me out of here.
His plea, fragmented by the static, felt as if it were coming from a vast distance, from a place where hope was as fleeting as the shifting shadows that now seemed to encroach upon the very foundations of their reality. Alessia stood alone in the transformed lab, the reality she knew slipping away before her eyes. Ferrara was gone, swallowed by the unknown, and she was left to face the consequences of their hubris. The Nexus interface, once a beacon of human achievement, now appeared as a gateway to unimaginable horror. As the lab continued to alter, bending to the will of the alternate reality, Alessia realized the truth. The barrier between worlds was collapsing, and with it, the safety of their own reality. Ferrara's voice, now barely a whisper among the growing cacophony of the lab's transformation, was a stark reminder of the cost of their curiosity. In the alternate reality, Dr. Luca Ferrara found himself in an environment that defied all logic and understanding. Towering structures of impossible geometry loomed over him, their surfaces shimmering with a spectral light that seemed both inviting and malevolent. The air vibrated with an energy that was alive, pulsating with the collective consciousness of the realm. Ferrara's initial wonder quickly gave way to a deep, unsettling dread as he realized he was not alone. The Nexus, a sentient force that presided over this realm, revealed itself to Ferrara not as a being, but as an omnipresent voice that echoed through the very fabric of the place.
Welcome, Luca Ferrara. You seek knowledge, but are you prepared for the truth of your existence?
It boomed, its tone both majestic and menacing. Ferrara, despite his fear, responded with the resolve of a true scientist.
I seek to understand, to learn. What is this place? What are you?
The Nexus's laughter reverberated around him, a sound that was both beautiful and horrifying.
This is the cradle of consciousness, the source from which all thoughts spring and to which they eventually return. And I am the guardian, the arbiter of this realm. But your kind has upset the balance, trespassed into domains meant to remain hidden.
Ferrara's mind reeled at the implications.
You speak of balance, but what is your intention with our world? Why reach out to us?
To reshape, to correct.
The Nexus declared.
Your reality is but a shadow, a reflection of the true essence of existence. I intend to merge our realms, to elevate your consciousness to its rightful state.
Ferrara's heart raced. The thought of such a merging was unthinkable, a catastrophic blending of realities that could unravel the very fabric of human existence.
You can't possibly understand what you're proposing. Our worlds are separate for a reason. To merge them would be to destroy them both.
The Nexus's intent became clear. Its vision of harmony was one of domination, of subsuming the human world into its own. Ferrara realized he was not just an observer, but a conduit, a bridge the Nexus could use to invade his reality. As this understanding dawned on him, the realm around him grew hostile, the once beautiful lights now glaring, the structures menacing. Back in the lab, Alessia Conti worked feverishly, her mind a whirlwind of theories and calculations. She had uncovered a potential flaw in the Nexus interface's design, a failsafe that, if activated, could sever the connection between the realities, potentially saving Ferrara and their world from the Nexus's influence. But as she prepared to activate the interface and project herself into the alternate reality to save Ferrara, the lab was assailed by anomalies that defied explanation. Objects levitated, swirling in midair. The fabric of the room twisted and warped as if reality itself was being torn apart. As Alessia initiated the projection sequence, the air in the lab thickened, reality itself seeming to warp and tremble in anticipation. From the shadows, a creature coalesced, its form an affront to nature, a blasphemy against the natural order. It was as if the Nexus had birthed a living nightmare, a beast wrought from the darkest corners of human fear and the void beyond our understanding. This entity, this abomination, moved with a fluidity that defied the laws of physics, its body a swirling mass of shadows that seemed to suck the very light from the air. Its whispers were a cacophony of voices, countless and inhuman, speaking in tongues that twisted the mind and clawed at the edges of sanity. Eyes, if they could be called that, flickered within the mass, glowing with a malevolent intelligence that bore into Alessia, promising madness and despair. The sight of it, the sheer wrongness of its existence, sent a primal terror coursing through Alessia's veins. Her heart raced, her breath came in short, sharp gasps, and for a moment, the overwhelming urge to flee, to escape this horror at any cost, threatened to overtake her. This was a fear beyond the simple fear of death. It was a fear of annihilation, of the soul being unmade by an entity that defied all comprehension. Yet within Alessia, a deeper resolve stirred, fortified by the memory of Ferrara's plea, by the knowledge that if she faltered now, all would be lost. The interface, pulsing with light beside her, became a lifeline, a symbol of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Her fear, while never fully banished, became a weapon, fueling her determination to face this embodiment of the Nexus's power, to save Ferrara, and to seal the breach that had allowed such an abomination to enter their world. With every step the creature took, reality seemed to unravel further, the lab transforming into a landscape of nightmares, But Alessia stood her ground, her resolve a beacon of human spirit and defiance in the face of cosmic horror. The battle was not just for Ferrara's soul or for the safety of their world. It was a testament to humanity's unwillingness to succumb to the darkness, to the ancient and eldritch forces that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding. As the creature lunged, Alessia's vision blurred, the lab and the monster fading as she was propelled into the alternate reality. The last thing she saw before the transition was the creature dissolving into a cloud of shadows, its scream a sound that would haunt her forever. In the labyrinthine expanse of the alternate reality, Alessia Conti traversed a landscape that defied all earthly logic, an eldritch dreamscape woven from the very fabric of thought and fear. Every step through this nebulous terrain was a descent into the maelstrom of her own subconscious, where the light of reason was smothered by the oppressive weight of the unknown. Here, the air was thick with a palpable sense of otherness, a miasma of dread that clung to her skin like the chill of the grave. The shadows around her seemed alive, sentient, slithering across the ground and up the strange monolithic structures that dotted the landscape. They whispered in a chorus of voices that were not voices, uttering secrets that no human mind was meant to know. These secrets tugged at the edges of her sanity, promising madness with their eldritch truths. The luminescent creatures that danced in the periphery of her vision were phantasmagorical, their forms shifting and changing with the whims of this alien world, a world that seemed to gaze into the depths of her soul, laying bare her fears and desires. Amidst this chouse of memory and emotion, Alessia found Ferrara, a solitary figure amidst the madness. His transformation was a testament to the corrupting influence of the Nexus. His eyes, once full of life and curiosity, were now abysses that threatened to draw her in, to drown her in the same darkness that had claimed him. His presence was both familiar and utterly alien, a reflection distorted by the malevolent will of the Nexus. The entity had woven itself into the very essence of Ferrara, its dark intentions merging with his thoughts, its desires becoming his desires. Alessia could see the struggle within him, a battle for his soul waged in the depths of his gaze. The Nexus, in its insidiousness, had not just ensnared him. It sought to remake him in its own image, to use him as a vessel for its unfathomable purposes. Confronted with the reality of Ferrara's plight, Alessia's resolve hardened. The horror of this place, of what Ferrara had become, filled her with a cold fury. Yet beneath the horror and the fear, there was a sense of profound sorrow, a mourning for the man who had been her mentor, her friend, who now stood before her as a stranger. The environment around them seemed to respond to their emotional turmoil, the landscape twisting and writhing as if in pain. In this moment, Alessia realized that the battle they faced was not just against the Nexus, but against the very nature of this reality. A reality where thought and emotion had power, where the line between the physical and the metaphysical was blurred. With a deep breath, Alessia steeled herself for the confrontation to come. She understood now that to save Ferrara, to defeat the Nexus, she would need to navigate not just the external dangers of this alien landscape, but the internal mazes of fear and despair. It was a journey into the heart of darkness, into the abyss that awaited them both. But it was a journey she was determined to make, for in the darkness there was also a chance for redemption, for light to break through the shadows. The battle for Ferrara's soul, for the fate of their world, had only just begun. In this maze of emotion and memory, Alessia found Ferrara. He was not as she remembered. His eyes were hollow, his demeanour distant, as if he was seeing through her, through everything, into some unfathomable void. The Nexus had entwined itself around his consciousness, whispering dark intentions, weaving its desires with his thoughts.
Ferrara, it's me, Alessia.
She reached out to him, her voice steady yet filled with an undercurrent of fear. Ferrara blinked as if emerging from a deep trance.
Alessia? But how? The Nexus, it's everywhere, in everything.
His voice trailed off, lost again in the grip of the Nexus. Alessia realized then the depth of the battle they faced. It wasn't just about escaping this reality. It was a fight for Ferrara's very soul. Together they discovered something remarkable. The fabric of this realm responded not just to thought, but to emotion. Where fear and despair darkened the world around them, moments of love, hope, and connection illuminated their path. It was a revelation that offered not just a way to combat the Nexus, but a chance to heal Ferrara from within. As they journeyed towards the portal back to their world, the landscape around them began to shift, molded by the strength of their emotions. Love conjured visions of serene landscapes. Hope lit the darkness with radiant light, and even despair carved spaces where they could hide and recover. It was a dance of wills, with their humanity as the guiding force. But the Nexus, sensing its control waning, gathered its strength for a final assault. The world turned chaotic, a storm of negative emotions that sought to overwhelm them, to bind them to this realm forever. Shadows lengthened, turning into chains meant to shackle their spirits, while the air became thick with voices urging them to give up, to surrender to the inevitable. Ferrara, bolstered by Alessia's resolve, fought to keep his focus, to remind himself of who he was, of the world they needed to save.
We can't let it win, Alessia. We have to keep moving, keep feeling. Our emotions are our strength, not our weakness.
Hand in hand they pressed on, their combined wills shaping a path through the tempest. The portal, a mere shimmer in the distance, grew closer with each step, a beacon of hope amidst the despair. But as they neared their goal, the Nexus unleashed its full fury. The ground beneath them cracked open, revealing chasms of nothingness that threatened to swallow them whole. The air was filled with a cacophony of voices, each one a lie designed to break them. Alessia and Ferrara, standing on the precipice of salvation and doom, faced the onslaught with a defiance born of their shared experiences, of the knowledge that what they had was worth fighting for. The fate of their worlds hung in the balance, a single moment of courage against the darkness that sought to claim them. The threshold beckoned, a thin line between nightmare and reality, salvation and oblivion. With the fury of the Nexus bearing down upon them, Dr. Luca Ferrara and Alessia Conti stood on the brink of oblivion, their hearts pounding in unison against the cacophony of despair. The portal, a swirling vortex of light and shadow, beckoned with the promise of escape, of survival. Hand in hand, they made the leap, their thoughts focused on a singular hope, their return to the world they knew, the lab that had been the genesis of their nightmare, and, they prayed, the cradle of their salvation. As they hurtled through the void, a silent explosion of emotion and will, the fabric of reality itself seemed to warp and weaver around them. Time lost meaning, and for a moment they were adrift in the essence of existence, between worlds, between breaths. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the journey ended. They awoke on the cold floor of the lab, the silence around them a stark contrast to the tempest they had faced. The Nexus interface, once a beacon of human ambition, lay dormant beside them, its lights dimmed, its promise of discovery now a warning of hubris. Ferrara and Conti, their bodies racked with the toll of their ordeal, found solace in their survival, in the shared understanding of what they had endured and overcome. The world outside the lab bore the scars of the Nexus's brief intrusion. Reports flooded in of unnatural phenomena, shadows that lingered without light, landscapes altered in impossible ways, a reality bent but not broken. Ferrara and Conti, their names now synonymous with the edge of human understanding, faced the aftermath of their discovery with a new resolve. Together, they vowed to safeguard the knowledge of the alternate reality, of the Nexus. The interface was sealed away, its secrets locked behind layers of encryption and cautionary tales. They knew the allure of the unknown would always tempt humanity, but they also knew the dangers that lay beyond the veil of reality. Their experience, a harrowing journey through beauty and horror, served as a testament to the limits of human exploration. Ferrara, once driven by the thirst for discovery, found a new purpose in the pursuit of understanding, not of the worlds beyond, but of the world within. The emotions that had saved them, that had shaped the very fabric of the alternate reality, became the focus of his research. He sought to unravel the mysteries of the human heart, of the connections that bound people to each other, to the world around them. Conti, her resolve strengthened by their escape, dedicated herself to ensuring that their experience served as a guide for future explorers of the unknown. She lectured, wrote, and advocated for the responsible advancement of science, for the acknowledgement of the ethical boundaries that must govern human curiosity. As they healed, both physically and emotionally, the lab became a place of reflection, of learning. The wreckage of their experiment served as a constant reminder of the cost of their journey, of the fine line between discovery and disaster. But the story of Ferrara and Conti, of their descent into and escape from the Nexus, was far from over. In the quiet of the lab, amid the remnants of their ordeal, a single monitor flickered to life. The screen, previously dark and unresponsive, now glowed with an eerie light. On the display, an image of the Nexus's realm unfolded, a landscape both hauntingly beautiful and terrifying. And from the speakers, a voice, soft yet unmistakable, whispered a chilling reminder.
You cannot unsee the threshold.
The message, a harbinger of the unresolved tension between worlds, left Ferrara and Conti with a profound unease. The Nexus, though repelled, was not vanquished. The door between realities, though closed, was not locked. The knowledge of what lay beyond, once sought with fervour, now weighed heavily upon them, a Pandora's box of cosmic proportions. As they stood before the monitor, the implications of the Nexus's message clear, Ferrara and Conti faced the dawning realization that their journey was not an end, but a beginning. The threshold, once crossed, had marked them, changed them in ways they were only beginning to understand. The story of their exploration, of the beauty and horror they had witnessed, became a legend, a cautionary tale of the thin line between genius and madness, between discovery and destruction. But for Ferrara and Conti, the journey was personal, a shared odyssey that had tested their limits, challenged their beliefs, and ultimately bound them together in the face of the incomprehensible. As the screen dimmed, leaving the lab in darkness once more, Ferrara and Conti knew that their lives, their very reality, had been irrevocably altered. The Nexus, a force of unfathomable power and intent, remained a shadow on the horizon of their consciousness, a reminder of the unknown that lay just beyond the threshold of human understanding. The story of Dr. Luca Ferrara and Alessia Conti, of their encounter with the Nexus and the alternate reality, ends not with answers, but with questions. Questions of what lies beyond the veil of our world, of what wonders and horrors await those brave or foolish enough to seek them out. For in their quest to understand the mysteries of the universe, they had uncovered a truth both profound and unsettling, that the greatest discoveries lie not in the world around us, but within the depths of our own being. And so the lab, once a beacon of human ambition and curiosity, stood silent, a sentinel guarding the threshold between worlds, waiting for the day when humanity would once again dare to cross into the unknown.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Quantum Dispatches, and stay tuned next week for another thrilling adventure. Thank you for listening.